Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. The top story: amid India-US tariff tensions, Prime Minister Modi embarked on a two-day visit to Japan where he got a rousing welcome from the Indian diaspora and spiritual greetings from the Japanese. But ahead of the visit, Japan's top trade negotiator Ryoshi Akazawa abruptly cancelled a visit to Washington where a deal of $550 billion was to be finalized in exchange for some relief from high tariff rates. Japan, however, attributed the delay to administrative issues. Prime Minister Modi, who landed in Tokyo on Friday, discussed cooperation in defense and security, trade, technology and innovation during the 15th India-Japan Annual Summit. This is Prime Minister Modi's 8th visit to Japan and first annual summit with Prime Minister Ishiba. Both the nations share a long history of diplomatic engagements. Modi also highlighted 5 key areas for greater business collaborations between the two sides towards Make in India and other initiatives. Several MOUs have been signed between both the countries, including India-Japan Digital Partnership 2.0, where both countries agreed on joint R&D in futuristic technological fields such as AI, semiconductors. There was also a joint declaration of intent on clean hydrogen and ammonia.
डिजिटल पार्टनरशिप 2.0 और एआई कोऑपरेशन इनिशिएटिव लिया जा रहा है। सेमीकंडक्टर्स और रेयर अर्थ मिनरल्स हमारे एजेंडे में सबसे ऊपर रहेंगे। फ्रेंड्स,
now, Japan and India shares the fundamental values, and in the Indo-Pacific region, we need to maintain free and open international order based on rule of law. We share the responsibility to strengthen such an international order as we see increasing opaqueness in the international circumstances. Japan and India need to bring on strengths together for peace and stability of the region.
Right, and to discuss this and more, I'm being joined by strategic affairs expert Brahma Chelani and former diplomat Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Brahma, if I could come to you first. You had tweeted about it, and that's a very significant message that you put out, that everybody's focused on China, but the more important visit is Japan. In your appreciation, what is the big takeaway that you see from this visit of Prime Minister Modi in Japan?
There is an annual summit that the two countries are supposed to hold, but that annual summit is not being held annually. So it's very good that Prime Minister Modi has gone to China at this time by going to Japan. By going to Japan, he has balanced his China trip, which is a very good signal, because the Chinese leaders, as we all know, often come to India, then go to Pakistan, or go to Pakistan, come to India. But Modi is showing that India can also play the same card. Japan and China have been historical rivals, and the Prime Minister's trip to Tokyo before going to Tianjin for the SCO Summit is a very good message to Beijing. It's important to remember that Japan, India, and China make a strategic triangle. In the strategic triangle, if Japan is B and India is C, B plus C will always be greater than A, which is China. If B plus C will always be greater than A economically and militarily. So India-Japan partnership is vital for Asian power balance and stability. Unfortunately, at the moment, Prime Minister Ishiba's future hangs in the balance. Yet, the institutionalized collaboration that has developed between India and Japan, that will continue irrespective of who's the Prime Minister in Tokyo or in New Delhi. This is a relationship between two natural allies. Look at it, Geeta, that when the Prime Minister goes to Tianjin and meets with Xi Jinping, he'll be discussing how to manage differences, how to moderate disputes, temper down disputes. But in Tokyo, his discussions with Ishiba have been about reinforcing an already flourishing strategic and economic partnership. So
Right.
it's a stark contrast to the kind of discussions that you will have in Tianjin.
Well, absolutely. Ambassador Sajjan, stark contrast, but would you agree that this was a very crucial visit? And clubbing Japan with the China visit that was because of SCO certainly is clear messaging from Indian side.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, Geeta. I think in the past also, if you remember the first visit that Prime Minister Modi had undertaken to China, he'd gone to Mongolia, he'd gone to South Korea along with those visits. And I think sometime later, again, when he went to China, he also came to Vietnam. So I think the Prime Minister always tries to balance those visits. The second point that I would like to make is, that is a visit to Tianjin and China is an international commitment. It is the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Barring last year when Prime Minister could not go because of the parliament session in India immediately after the elections here, and 2023 when we were hosting our own summit, Prime Minister Modi has attended all SCO summits. So that was a given. But I think coming to Japan, particularly in the context of the geopolitical changes, the turbulence and the flux that is taking place, I think for bilateral reasons in terms of strengthening the economic and strategic cooperation, also sending out a message, as has been mentioned, to China, but also sending out a message to the United States, because both India and Japan are at the receiving end as far as the tariffs from Mr. Trump are concerned. So I think on a variety in a variety of perspectives, this was a very significant visit. And if you look at the outcomes, Geeta, then of course the significance and the importance of this visit in bilateral context, regional and global context increases all the more.
All right, let's deliberate upon what happens when he goes to China as well. That's a very important part of this entire visit. You said that amid Trump tariffs, this visit becomes all the more important. Also, more importantly, in China, he's not just attending the SCO summit. On the sidelines of that summit, he's going to meet with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, as also Russian President Vladimir Putin. So it is a very crucial visit. Let's take a look at what this means and what can India expect out of this visit, because this is the first since the Galwan clash of 2020.
2020 Galwan clash, one of the worst phases in India-China relations. But as a thaw seemed nearly impossible, in 2025 the world is set to see a reset in the ties between both the nations. After Prime Minister Modi concludes a two-day visit to Japan, his next stop will be China, where he will hold bilateral talks with President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin. Modi's visit to China will be his first visit in 7 years. During this visit, he is likely to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin, a prominent member of the SCO. This meet comes at a time when India is being alleged of funding the Ukraine war and filling the Russian coffers by purchasing oil. Pakistan, which has been recently enjoying America's generosity and its military leadership being hosted in the White House, is also a part of the SCO summit. Speaking during an interview to Japan's largest national newspaper, the Yomi Yuri Shimbun, Modi stressed that India-China relations is crucial for a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world. India-China has had relations spanning from ancient trade and cultural ties, notably the spread of Buddhism and the selection of the Holiness the Dalai Lama, to a modern diplomatic partnership in 1950 that soured with the 1962 Sino-Indian War, leading to border disputes. Both the countries have been members of the SCO and BRICS, and both these platforms have given jitters to the United States, both economically and geopolitically. US has imposed 50% tariff on India, which came into effect from August 27. The rationale behind the additional tariff of 25% is that US has imposed penalty on India because India has been purchasing Russian oil and thereby has been funding Moscow's war machine in Ukraine. Following the Galwan clash, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Russian Kazan in October 2024. Earlier, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited India and met Prime Minister Modi. He also met External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and NSA Ajit Doval, during which both countries agreed to form new mechanism to their decades-old boundary dispute. Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Brahma, if I could come to you, is this strategic autonomy or strategic necessity?
That's a good question. But I think to answer your question, let's keep in mind some important facts. The Prime Minister's visit is supposedly for the SCO Summit. At least that's the rationale for going to Tianjin. But the decision to go this year to the SCO Summit is probably more about signaling conciliation toward China than about the SCO. For example, last year's SCO Summit in Astana, Kazakhstan, Modi skipped that summit. And the year before last, when India was the rotating head of the SCO, Modi downgraded the SCO Summit to a virtual format. So going this year to the SCO Summit is very significant. India joined the SCO largely to help play the role of a balancer to prevent the SCO from acquiring a anti-Western orientation. But the SCO still has become increasingly apparent, especially as it has expanded. Its latest entrant is Iran. And China is increasingly in the driver's seat in the SCO. India is the odd man out. It's the odd man out for two reasons. First, it's the only established democracy in the SCO. The other 9 members of the SCO are autocracies. Second, the other 9 members of the SCO are all partner countries of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which India has opposed right from the beginning as a neo-colonial enterprise. So India's membership of the SCO and Modi's in-person participation in the SCO Summit are very significant, even though China has been the driving force in the evolution of the SCO. It sees the SCO as its own initiative. After all, it bears the name of Shanghai. It's a Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The SCO has a permanent secretariat in Beijing. And do you know, Geeta, that the deliberations in the SCO conducted not in English, only in 2 languages.
That's right.
Mandarin and Russian.
Yes.
And also the most important thing that we miss out in India is that, and China keeps repeating this. It calls on other SCO members to uphold what it labels the quote unquote Shanghai spirit. And what is the Shanghai spirit? The Shanghai spirit is supposedly anchored in mutual trust, mutual benefit, equality, and consultation. These are the 4 principles of Shanghai spirit according to Beijing. These are the same principles that China has violated in relation to India through its furtive encroachments on some key Indian borderlands in eastern Ladakh, which triggered a tense military standoff with India for 5 years. And we keep talking, Geeta, let me just make one point. We keep talking about the Galwan clash as a defining moment. No, the Galwan clash was the consequence of what happened earlier. The Galwan clash happened in June 2020. What the trigger for what happened in Galwan were these furtive Chinese encroachments in April 2020. That was the cause for the military standoff and for the tensions, not the Galwan clash, because there were a series of other clashes before Galwan. We forget that from May 1st, 2020, when the first clash happened, from May 1st till mid-June, when the Galwan clash happened, there had been a series of clashes between Indian and Chinese troops.
Right. So let me just focus on mutual trust. Before that, you just gave a lot of fodder to Peter Navarro Brahma by talking about autocracies and democracy. But taking the question on mutual trust to Ambassador Sajanhar, can China be trusted? Is this an opportunity or necessity? And even if it is necessary to engage China, can Beijing be trusted, Ambassador Sajanhar?
Of course, it cannot be trusted. I think our whole history of relations, not over the last 5 years, but I can say for the last 50 years or more, China cannot be trusted. And I think we know that. It is, its list of perfidious actions and intentions is very well known for me to repeat it on your show, and I'm sure your viewers, your listeners know about it all that very well. Whether it is the claim on 93,000 square kilometers of Arunachal Pradesh, which it claims as South Tibet. It is sitting since 1962 on 38,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chin, the manner in which it has been funding and supporting Pakistan. Even in the latest Op Sindoor, it provided intelligence, etc. So the whole, there's a litany of issues on the basis of which it cannot be trusted. That having been said, I think participation and India's membership of the SCO is very important. I agree, and I said it myself, last year Prime Minister Modi could not go for the SCO Summit because immediately after the elections, the first session of the Indian Parliament, which was to be addressed by our president, that was being held. And before that, for a variety of reasons, but before, when it started, we provisionally got into in 2015. India and Prime Minister Modi was in Ufa. 2016, he was in Tashkent. 2017, he was in Astana. 2018, he was in Qingdao, and I can go on.
Right, so, but Ambassador Sajanhar, it's not about his participation of SCO. It's about the bilateral that's going to take place between India and China. What should then we expect out of this meeting? What would you look at as the big takeaway?
Big takeaway is, we are not getting into an embrace with China. We are getting into a normal and stabilization exercise with China, which started in October of last year when the two leaders met in Kazan on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. And I think two large countries, 1.4 billion people each, an unsettled border, large economies, large militaries. I think it is good for both these countries to have normal, stable relations, maybe not warm, friendly, cordial, and very expansive or deep relations as we have with Japan or with any of the strategic partners. So basically ensuring that there is stability, there is peace and tranquility on the border. Border management should be done. India has some problem with China on the trade issue also, in terms of imports of some rare earth magnets, in terms of fertilizer, in terms of tunnel boring machines, etc. When Wang Yi was in Delhi, we have been able to, get some sort of a commitment from him. So I think there are all these issues. And as far as Mr. Trump is concerned, there might not be anything substantive, but I think signaling and messaging, Geeta, is important. And in that context, his meeting with Xi Jinping would be important. Last point, if you permit, I would like to mention this,
yes.
In terms of the utility of the SCO for us. It is not only, it is a China-led organization. Russia is also there.
Right.
But, it provides a platform to me to engage with the Central Asian countries.
Right.
And that is a very important element because I do not have any other platform except on a bilateral basis. So here, my Prime Minister can, and at different levels, ministers, Raksha Mantri, External Affairs Minister, senior officials, they can connect with their counterparts from Central Asia.
Right. Ambassador Sajanhar Brahmachalani, thank you so much for joining us. We are yet to see disengagement completely by China. So let's see what happens from here on. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. Here's my piece on can India trust China? Can Modi trust Xi Jinping? Watch the full show on India Today Global's YouTube channel, but here is an excerpt. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet President Xi Jinping at the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, that is, the SCO Summit. This is no ordinary handshake. This is a test of trust, betrayal, and survival. India and China share one of the world's most combustible relationships. Brothers once, rivals now, traders in peace, fighters in war. China betrays, India miscalculates. Both bleed. And now, after Trump's tariff war in 2025 tore through global trade, these two giants are facing each other again. Can Modi's first trip to China in 7 years finally thaw tensions, or is this just another mirage? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. The backdrop is explosive. Galwan still haunts India. Troops glare across the line of actual control. Trade is poisoned by suspicion. America's tariffs have left both economies bruised and furious. Modi once believed leader-to-leader diplomacy could tame Beijing. Xi once smiled and struck at the border. Now, flights are resuming, pilgrimage routes are reopening, trade flows are cautiously returning. But behind the smiles is raw mistrust. Is this a genuine recalibration or just a pause before the next betrayal? The stage is carefully choreographed. Sovereignty, territorial integrity, trade, every handshake carries weight. Every word is calculated. This is not friendship. This is survival. Behind closed doors, the stakes are far higher than photo ops. Troop pullbacks, trade agreements, climate cooperation, these are tactical maneuvers. Modi will push for India's economic and territorial interests. Xi will advance Beijing's vision of Asian primacy. This is high-stakes diplomacy. Border is the shadow that never disappears. Galwan in 2020 shattered illusions. Soldiers on both sides died, and with it, trust died. Even now, despite disengagement, thousands of troops remain dug in. Roads, bunkers, airstrips. The Himalayas are militarized like never before. Maps released by China claiming Arunachal Pradesh are knives to India's pride. Every Chinese patrol crossing into disputed zones is another cut. India responds. China pushes back. Talks drag on. Nothing really moves. The LAC is more than a line. It is a symbol of suspicion, a test of patience. Every summit must confront it. Can diplomacy tame mountains? Or are these ridges destined to remain walls of mistrust? Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, remember that? The 1950s, Panchsheel, smiles, handshake. Then, 1962, China struck, India reeled, and the brotherhood became betrayal. Since then, the cycle repeats. A smile, a summit, then a stab in the back. Beijing perfected humiliation, refusing ambassadors, publishing provocative maps, blocking India in global forums, shielding Pakistan at the United Nations. Every gesture carries a sting. Every promise has a catch. India too has stumbled. Diplomacy often reacts rather than anticipates. When crises hit, there was no structural buffer, only mistrust, anger, and reactive policy. Modi believed in personal rapport. But can rapport and handshake substitute for planning and strategy? Nehru believed slogans could erase suspicion. Both were proven wrong. India failed to build robust institutions for managing China. Military modernization lagged. Intelligence was fragmented. China has also blocked India's rise on the global stage. Nuclear Suppliers Group? Vetoed. United Nations Security Council reform? Blocked. Every lever has been used to keep India just short of global parity. Betrayal is strategic and repeated. Trump's 2025 tariff war reshaped Asia. America slapped India. America slapped China. Both economies bruised. Supply chains rattled. Markets trembled. Beijing publicly supported India's protest against Trump's tariffs. Flights resumed. Visas were issued. Pilgrimages reopened. Trade flows cautiously returned. Working groups emerged. Climate and tech cooperation restarted. This alignment is tactical, not friendship. Necessity, not trust. The enemy of my enemy became a temporary ally. Both nations saw the value of recalibration. But is temporary alignment enough to overcome decades of mistrust? India trusted too much. China betrayed too often. That is the cycle. The lesson is brutal. Don't mistake handshakes for guarantees. Don't hope friendship can erase betrayal. India must plan strategically, proactively, institutionally. China must restrain its aggressive tools, including Pakistan and border manipulations. Otherwise, history repeats itself. That's all in this edition of India Today Global. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and take care.
you